Let me just come in here. Type this. I'll make it bigger. Just let me go about. Let me just do it 100. Typeface. Font. Typeface is not the same thing as font. Typeface is actually this part. These are actually the typefaces. You can see they even call these fonts as well because it's the generally accepted, but according to typography and all of these typographies, to them, font is a combination of things. Typeface is the name, is the face, is the identity of the font that we are talking about. You understand? That is what typeface is. Now, font is typeface plus size plus weight plus any other adjustments that you make to that particular typeface. Understand? The font here, right, is sorry, let me just close. The font here is semi-bold 100 because the size is size 100. This font is a different font from, if I just change this by 1, they are both two different fonts at this point. This is size 100, this is size 99, according to typography proper. This size 100, but the moment it becomes bold, it's no longer the same font again. They are both different now, even though they look very, very similar. They are different at this point as well. Coming here and then saying regular is thinner than the rest of them. They are different. They have this face, but they are all different fonts. That's pretty much the concept behind fonts, typefaces, and some of those things. Typeface is the name of the font itself, but the font is a combination of all of those things. And I can actually have the same semi-bold 100, but then the character spacing, what we call letter spacing, can be different. Letter spacing just means I want to increase the distance between each character from each other. I can adjust it here. This is 0%. This is the original. If I click up on my keyboard, just start increasing 1%, 2%, 3%. And then if I just hold it, just paste them out. This is a different font because the character spacing has changed again. One of the things you can also do to make things more legible or more readable is to adjust your character spacing. But this is crazy. This is too much. Character spacing shouldn't be too crazy. I would say maximum, maybe you go about an 8% or a 9%, but you never really go too far. But again, it depends on the context of where you're using it, you understand? And again, whenever you see percentage, it's just saying percentage of the main font size. When we say 1%, it will shift it by 1% of this 100. Understand? We say 11%, we shift it by 11% of that 100. It is shifting it according to the size of the font that it's appropriate for that font size. Those are just some of those basic things that you guys should know. Now, when it comes to fonts, typefaces, we have some key categories of typefaces. One of the key ones that we have is something we call the sans serif. And then another one we now have is something we call the serif fonts. I'm sure you guys probably have heard of this before. Now, we then have some others who are actually more decorative fonts. Or let me just say decorative typefaces or whatever. Decorative. Beyond the decorative as well, we also have something called slab. Slabs, they have a particular look to them anyway. They have a particular look to them. Now, let's first talk about sans serif. And I'll put in a bunch of stuff in here. I'll just say A, B, C. And let me duplicate this multiple times. Do you guys know how to duplicate yet? How to duplicate? You don't have to duplicate anything the way I'm doing it. Just hold Alt on your keyboard. Once you hold Alt on your keyboard, you just click and drag it. You can make many copies quickly instead of Control D. Once you hold Alt on your keyboard, you just click, drag, and then you place it wherever you want it to be, and voila, you are done. Very easy. But that's just what I'm doing. That's just how I'm duplicating fast. You see, once I create one thing, you see that all I did was I came here and I created one. But from this one, I've done other things by duplicating many times and just arranging. That is one thing. You have to start thinking of efficiency and speed. ABC, ABC. Now, I'm going to duplicate this a couple more times. And I'll arrange this maybe somewhere here. And I'll put this a little bit here as well. ABC. I'll come in here and then I'll find some fonts. I want you guys to tell me what category you think these fonts fall into. I would like you guys to participate. It's all good. Let's go into something. Let's go into some other fonts. Let's say, no, okay, just they're not too different. I don't think that really makes a big dent. Let's go in. Let's see. This is a good font. Let's find one final one. Let's go deep down. And all right. Yes, it's a serif font. Okay. Now, what are serifs? When you hear sans means no serif. No. It means avoidant or devoid of something. Sans serif. No serif. Let's come in here. What are serifs? These guys are serifs. This extra jara under your text, under your typography is what we call serifs. These are the actual serifs. You can see it has that jara on top. This C2 has extra jara there. This is what we call serif. When they say sans serif, it means this extra jara is not in the font. This is decorative. This is decorative. This is the font that is mostly recommended for you to work with. Sans serif fonts. Always. But there are certain contexts where this other font will apply, and I'll talk about them in a bit. Now, what about this guy? What type of font is this? This is a slab font. The reason why it's slab, is because it's blocky. Any font that looks blocky is what we call the slab fonts. You understand? This gives you like Tetris vibe, Sega Genesis vibes, PlayStation. Yeah, not even PlayStation itself. I would think Minecraft type fonts from back in the typewriter type fonts. This is a slab. It's kind of robotic in a way. Yeah. Slab. And this guy, what is this guy? Yeah, this is also decorative, you understand? Because it's just more graphical than anything else, understand? These are pretty, and I think you guys can recognize fonts now when you're working with them. Now, for UI design, when it comes to fonts or using typography, we're allowed to classify our typography into two key parts, two key classes. When you want to work with type when you want to work with type on a UI design or a UX design, whatever type of design, in UI UX, in product design, there are two key classes you have to classify your fonts into. The first one is the primary fonts that you will be using for your entire designs. And the second one is your secondary font. Now, some people go ahead and then have a tertiary third font. I've seen that. And I've seen the biggest companies have tertiary fonts. I can say, but the biggest companies I've seen, they have one font mostly, not even a secondary font. You understand? But a primary font, this is going to be the most common in your entire design. Your entire design that you're designing, this will be the common, this will be the, and let's now start classifying where these fonts typically will be found. These fonts typically, you use the primary fonts are the most common because they are primary to your entire designs. These fonts can be found in buttons, paragraphs. I'll just say long paragraphs. We find also in inputs, menus, labels. We'll talk about some components later, but these are some key things. Can also be used as sub-headings. Also, you can use them in captions, use them in alt texts. These are typically places where they are used. These are most of the UI components. Your primary fonts would always be found in one way or the other in all of these different contexts. The secondary fonts is typically used not very heavily in your designs, but you typically find it in your headers, pop-up, should I say, ads within an app, or you can find them in graphics within the app. Some very limited, some sub-headers. Typically, you don't find them in a very heavy use. We don't use them in buttons. We don't use them in inputs. We use them in very selected areas just to grab attention to something. That's typically what we do with them. Tertiary fonts, in my opinion, are pretty much things that are even rarely used than the secondary fonts. The hierarchy is primary is the most used. Secondary is the one that we don't use as much, but we use in some places. And tertiary is very, very unique situations where maybe there's kind of like a stakeholder conflict or they want something and we don't have a choice but to do it. Because they pay the bills, obviously, we have to do the job. Then we apply the tertiary fonts in those areas. Those are kind of like the ways that you should actually look at fonts. But the key thing too about fonts is there's always going to be primary, would always exist. Occasionally, you have a secondary. For a brand that wants to play around with fonts and become a little bit more creative with fonts, typography, right? Then secondaries are welcome. In places where to add some extra pizzazz or there's a lack of structure in some way, tertiary fonts are then added. That's pretty much how I want you guys to look at them, right? Now, when I say these things, what should be the criteria of choosing a primary font? Or even choosing a font or a typeface at all? What should be the criteria of how you choose? One of the things you need to understand is, first question, and I'll just say criteria for choosing fonts. Sometimes I always just wonder, how do I still remember these things? Anyway, criteria for choosing fonts. First things first, you need to think, what type of app am I building? Second thing you also need to think about, what industry am I building for? Second thing is, what type of users will be using this product or app? Next thing, how legible is this font? Or let me just say typeface. Next one, how flexible is the use of this typeface? Very important. And these are the key things I'll tell you guys to always consider when at least you are, should I say, choosing a typeface to use. I would always say these will be the key things that I always think of. Now, what type of app am I building? Let's talk about apps. If I was building an app for a newspaper company like Guardian, Telegraph, New York Times, what font do you think I will use mostly? If I was working for a newspaper company, I want you guys to think carefully. Remember, old newspapers were serif fonts. You forgot it. They always add
Old
all of these
newspaper, yeah.
old newspapers. A lot of those type of brands, they want to have that same newspaper feeling. But a blog is more of a modern type publication company. Blogs are more modern. Most of them work sans serif. Don't get it confused. Most times, when
Okay.
it comes to these companies, the decision of fonts as well is not even just designer's decision. They have stakeholders that are old timers that want it this way and no other way at all. When it comes to things like newspaper publications, you would probably see serif fonts as probably body. But in some cases, and the way old publications have started modernizing their identities, digital identities, nowadays, what they are actually saying primary font is sans serif, but their secondary font is now going to be a serif font. You understand? That is how to work these days. They still have their to please the big stakeholders, the billionaire guys that are backing them, or the propaganda that they are pushing. Yes, the feel of the serif is still there for the headers, but for the actual users to read it effectively, it's much more easier to read a sans serif long paragraph than to be reading serif paragraphs. Research has actually showed that people actually prefer reading very simple written stuff, or can, again, for people with dyslexia as well, we always think of those things. There's something called WCAG. I will encourage you guys to think about some of those things. Maybe read more about it. Understand? And I'll talk about it a little bit more as well. But those are some of the key things that you guys should actually consider. Newspaper publications will probably go that route. Now, for things more like social media, what do you think the font will probably be? Primary typeface. Very good. Sans serif font. You understand? Now, secondary fonts, you can now find something that balances out that sans serif font. Decorative is a no-go when it comes to UI design. Decorative should only be used in graphic design. And it's graphic within your product, you can do that. Or graphic on social media, you can do that. But don't use them for your secondary fonts, or don't use them for your tertiary self. They can be tertiary, because I've had a case where they wanted it to be their tertiary font. Yes, you can have that, but you would probably use it in only, I don't know, maybe one or two places within the entire app. Trust me, that's how it goes. Now, slab as well, very similar to decorative. The two of them, I put them under the same boat. I don't know why they're very different, but to me, they're all decorative in my opinion. I would always put them in the same category, as these are fonts that you should not really use for your primary or secondary. When it comes to primary, this should always be the font you consider for primary almost all the time. And this guy can be secondary, but at times it's just better to just combine a second nice looking sans serif with your secondary font as well. You understand? What app are you building? You need to understand the industry, the key stakeholders, the playmakers of that thing, and what their decisions are before you even choose the right font or the kind of font. Or sometimes you also need to compromise that industry, the two of them together, that kind of like tied into one. The reason why we've now decided that the best way to choose your primary font should think of the users, because it's so easy to read, the sans serif. We already have that understanding that sans serif is probably the best and has always worked for almost any app. You understand? Therefore, we have an understanding that sans serif is the best first choice. But in a very rare occasion where they might want something specific, then you can compromise, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be out of the job. At the end of the day, you still have to compromise a little bit. But that's kind of like how it goes. Now, how legible is the typeface? That's the real question. No matter how sans serif is it very legible? And let us check out a few sans serif fonts. You'll say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Now, to really understand the legibility of anything, I'd always advise as well that you see fonts in both capitals and uppercase and lowercase. It's always very good to see things in both uppercase and lowercase. Now, Inter is Figma's default font. This is the font that they use for everything. This is Inter, everything in the Figma interface is Inter, right? Now, let's go down and let us find other, let's just say Roboto. I'm just going for Roboto. There's Roboto, but also there's Roboto Condensed, which is also sans serif. But also, there are other types as well. They also have their own serif. But let's go find Lato. Lato is also a very good font. And this is actually very good font, basically, because I just like to install a very good font. I would say my font, I think the ones I use at work the most is Cabinet, which is for me is primary font. Cabinet Grotesque. Any font you see that is grotesque, when you see that grotesque, it's a very, they are almost always very good fonts. With the name Grotesque, they are very, very good fonts. You understand? Yeah. Let's find something else like Poppins. It's one of the most it's one of the most popular starter fonts. Poppins. Yes. Now, all of these guys, they are all legible enough. Fine. But what will make them a little bit more legible? What will make this a little bit more legible? Now, there's something I want you guys to understand about fonts is the white spacing around a type dictates how easy it's going to be. Because it's easy for you to read, doesn't mean it's going to be easy for the next person to read it. We all don't have the same eyesight. Whenever you have the font, do I have to start adjusting the character spacing before we start using the font? It's a very, very important thing. How legible is it without any adjustments? It's very important to see that. Now, most sans serif fonts, by default, by the way they come, are already very, should I say, legible. Now here, You may actually say this is actually a serif font, but funny enough, it's not a serif font. It's a sans serif font. But that is why they call it the grotesque. Grotesque means they are breaking the rules a little bit. You understand? That's just grotesque. That's kind of like the name of that family. They call them grotesque because they break the rules a little bit, but not too much. That's why they call them grotesque, basically. Most fonts here are very, very readable. Before you use any font, first study how legible is it, find it's legible. The second thing you now have to check is how flexible is it? This is the real determinant for me personally. When I say flexible, flexibility means in how many ways can I use these guys? If a font doesn't allow you to use it in at least 6 different ways, then that means that's not the font you should use for your primary. Watch, when I select this, how do you find out the flexibility of this guy? If I come down here, this semi-bold is where you see the flexibility. How many options of weights and sizes do I have? Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can use it in so many ways. I can use it as header, as subtitle, as a small this, because information hierarchy is very important when you are thinking about type. Understand? I can use them in bold. I can use it in extra bold. I can even go extra bold. I have italics, but I have italic, medium italics, bold italics, all of it is there. You understand? There's a very big flexibility of the use of this inter, which is why inter is a very, very good one. When I come to the next one as well, Ubuntu has many of them. There's condensed versions of it. There's the normal versions of it. There's the extra ones. There's so much. There are so many versions. So is Android's official font. That is Android's official. Roboto is Android's official font. You can see the options are endless. You can use it in so many ways. This next one here as well, like coming to check, this is Roboto condensed, kind of tied into that one. This Roboto condensed, I would not really use it because I only have 1, 2, 3. In my opinion, these are not really flexibilities. This 1, 2, 3 has already disqualified it for me. I need to have extra, maybe light, extra light, semi-bold, medium, all those kind of weights that I can play around with sizes that I might want. You understand? It's very important. This pretty much won't really cut it for a primary font. This one as well, if I come into Lato, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5. It's not flexible enough. If I'm building a very small app, I'll probably use it. But in my opinion, this is not a very good one as well. There's no flexibility between regular and bold. You have no choice than to use regular or bold. And that's what my complaint with this particular font is. Some people use this as well. You understand? So people find creative ways to use fonts. For this one, let's come in Poppins. Poppins has a lot. That's why Poppins is very popular for beginners. Thin, extra light, regular. And trust me, your Figma comes with all these fonts. So you don't really have to start looking for where to install fonts. You see, all of them, they are all in there. This one as well, that come in, it also has its own options. Thin, extra light, regular, medium, bold, extra bold, black. This is all I need. Most times, you never really use the metallic stuff. This is all I needed, and this is what worked for me while I was working on that project itself, or while I still work on that project anyway. Flexibility just means in how many ways can we use it? That is the real thing about projects. When you are building anything, how many ways can we use it to communicate important, like hierarchy or scale of importance? That is what it just means. Let's now move to how do we now set up font systems when we decide, oh, this is our primary font, this is going to be our secondary font. How do we decide scales, type scales? Now, over here in Figma, you'll see something called local style. In this local style, if I click on plus, I can set color styles, text styles, effects, and grids. For now, we are talking about color. We just click text. Once I click on text, something will pop up. I'm here to set the standard. That's what I want to do now. I'll say base, I'll just call it base font for now. And let's just assume we want to use Inter, Abi as the base font. Our base font should be something in between, something balanced. Typically, I'll just say, let's go up to about 16 for our base font. And I'll say the base font should typically just be like regular. This is where you are starting from to define a standard scale for your designs. And I'll just say create style. Now, the style has been created and saved here. That's my base font. One of the things I need to now do is I need to define other sizes. I need to have 16 that is semi-bold, 16 that is bold. But what are the uses of those things? Now, there's something in code and in design that they used to show hierarchy. Right? Hierarchy, should I say type? Let me just show you. There's something called the H1, something called the H2, the H3, H4. Some people go as far as having H5, H6. These are just H hierarchy 1, hierarchy 2, 3, 4, 5, or header 1, header 2, header 3, whatever you want to call it. Then we have something called the P, which is paragraph. That's in code. Typically is in code. But instead of using P, we'll just say body 1, body 2, body 3, body 4. Now, the reason why we have body 1, 2, 3, 4 is because we might be required to have different sizes of body. In desktop, on the desktop view, it will be bigger. That's the large. Body 1 can be used for something like desktop. Maybe for mobile, body 3 can be used. Body 2 can be like a smaller body, but maybe like things are broken down into smaller granular forms. Then body 2 can be there. You understand? But then between headers and bodies, we'd always have something called the sub headers as well. So you can have header 1, you can have a sub header 2. You can have 1 or 2 or 3. Really, it really depends on what you guys are trying to achieve and how flexible you want to set your scale. You're going to set everything. Now, we can say these base fonts that we have already set, we now can say maybe that base font of 16 should pretty much be our body 2. I can just say in brackets, base font. Now, beyond the bodies, we are now going to have some large, small, let's say button medium, button small. Beyond those guys, we'll also have some for caption. We can have caption 1. It's always good to have options. Caption 1, caption 2, I can have caption 3. Can have 1, 2, or 3, or just 1. Doesn't matter. Right? Now, you can have some others as well. There can be a number of different things that I might want to use this thing for. That I can set it. Some people don't even set it this way. Some people set it and say things like, let me show you. Some people will set it and say things like Euro 1. Euro pretty much just means any website you go to, the first top area that you can see on that website. Let me go to something like, let's go somewhere like Flutterwave. Let me just go back. Let's see, Flutterwave. Just as an example. This is the Euro section of any website. This is the Euro section. Now, this is a very large header. And you can see, because it is used in a specific way to grab attention. But here, you see, the same primary font is what they're just working with everywhere else. But to grab attention, the secondary will always pop up once in a while. But everything else is just say the primary font everywhere. Even here, you understand? When I say body 1, body 2, see, this is larger than this one. You understand? We can set them to say, oh, some things will need to be more clear. We allow this. But some things maybe it might just be in like little cards like this. Let us just do this. All of these different things all affect each other. It's always very good to set all of the different sizes. You can see this size, this is still the secondary font, right? But it's smaller than the size used here. But this size here is the same size here and here and where else? Here as well. But if you notice as well, there's our normal font in a very, very large size. How do you label all of these things properly? That in other pages when they are using it, that is where we are setting all of this H1, H2, blah, 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 sub-header 2. We are setting it. Some people like to name it. They'll say, oh, Euro text. Maybe here they'll now say header. And then they probably just have 2 headers. Header 2 and maybe 3. Let me just let me do 3. header 3. Sometimes, most times you see in design systems, and we'll talk about design systems at some point as well. Design systems, the way they set it in such a way that you don't, how do I want to put it? You don't really have to use every single style that you set. You just have to have them created. And when you are designing, you just apply those styles. You understand? So we could just have here. So some people name it properly according to what it is as body. Right here, they can say blog or maybe article body. Maybe here they can say something like, maybe there's something like a search. So you can say search and lists body. Sometimes it's always, I kind of like this because me, I'm actually learning, I'm beginning to learn to take things from this model of just setting like this to having specific for things so that when I'm applying those styles, I know exactly what I'm applying it for and what it's generally used for. Let's now go a little bit. How do we now create all of these hierarchies? I'll tell you that quickly. There's a plugin for it. And how do we now apply it when we are designing? Let's watch. And I'll apply it to this our sample design here. Let's go. Let us now go here and get a plugin called Type. Let's go. Type. There's Type Out. There's Type Scale. I prefer to use Type Scale. Type Scale is the industry standard. They used to have a website. Now they have a plugin. It's making everything just like dope for us. There's something called the minor thirds and all of these orishi, whatever. These are scales. These are standard scales. Most people work with the golden ratio. I think the sizes upwards and the sizes downwards. We want to have a middle ground of what our, you can see now, it has taken the content. It's looking at the size here, but this is what the size we want to start with. We wanted to start with that base font that we have created. That's why I created it. I'll just come here and I'll just type something. Hello, wicked world. And then I want to apply that, what's it called? Our base font. How do you apply a base font? Just select the font, go to your typography. You see these 4 dots here. Anything you have saved in a local style will be listed there. Just click. Now, the base font has been applied. This is exactly that base font size, the weight, everything that was set in there. Select this. And the content should just be, let's just use Hello Wicked World as our content, right? Now, we want it to give us how many sizes upwards and how many sizes downwards. We don't want too many sizes down because remember, we set it at 16. We don't want anything lower than 10. We'll probably just say, give us 4 downwards. And to the top, give us about maybe 10 sizes upwards from 16. That at least if we wanted the biggest size, we also have options for that. Then, what I'll just do here is I've chosen golden ratio. Now, it can be very wishy-washy. When you minus an error pixel, it will give you old numbers. But just watch. I'll not round this up. We'll just do this as a first sample. Now, create scale. And then it has created our type scale for us. See the size it's giving us, right? Now we have 751. See, these are like crazy sizes, which makes no fucking sense. Therefore, Control Z, let's go back. Times you end up trying things multiple times just to get it right. Here, I'm going to come in here and I'll just do a minor second, but I think I want to do more of a custom. Instead of saying 1.2, I pretty much just say I wanted to give me maybe 2s. Even though those guys actually have 2s, right? Now, I want to go up sizes and I would say, let me test doing about 10 upwards. Let's create the scale. And still it's giving us something very wild as well. 512. We don't need fonts that are that crazy. Therefore, our base font is going to change. I'll come back to base. Just change the settings from that 16. Can always go down to a lowest. Just say 10. 10, which is pretty much the smallest here. You can start from that. And I will then set that again. Any plugin you use recently will be saved to recent. You can just click on it and just use. Now we have this 6.2. We want to go a little bit maybe lower as well. Now round up to the whole pixel, and let's now try create the new scale again. It's giving us a relatively good one, right? Now it has given us something that makes sense. Good. I like this. 30, 25. But one thing about me is I personally would not use this like this, right? Now, one thing I'll do is, because you still have to name them according to all of the labels I have created here. Work. I don't like to use odd numbers. I like to always use even numbers. This is 30. Instead of saying 26 here, I'll just come here, give me 24. I'll change this to 4. Right. And then I'll change that well to 20. As well, from 17 pixels, I'll say give me 16. Just say 16. Oh, sorry. Here, 14 is fine. 12 is also fine. 10 is fine. 8 is fine. Anything below 8, I'm not doing that. Just delete that. Now, I already have a scale of how I want to go up. You understand? One of the things I'll now look at is, am I designing a website or a mobile app? I'll then bring in a frame, a mobile app, and then I'll bring in a frame for a desktop as well. Don't worry, we'll round up very soon. I don't want to take too much of your time. Right? We have both. How do we now set to now see what other sizes will work very well? We're going to have large, we'll have medium. One thing I know for sure is all of these sizes, they work very well for mobile and desktop. One of the things I also have to consider as well is what other sizes? What if I want to achieve something as big as this? On a desktop, 30 is not that size. Let me show you. Let me make a duplicate and then show you what that is. Even if we break it into 2 lines, it's not that size. You understand? It's not that big. We have to now start looking. We have 20, 24, 30. Then we can then start going up. One of the things I will just do is auto layout allows me to, I don't know. I think until I teach you guys auto layouts, I'll not really, but again, I just want to arrange. I'll just use an auto layout and I'll create multiple duplicates of here. I'll move this up right now. What I'm going to do now is I have 30, which is the maximum I had the last time. I'll first set the numbers I want. These rems, they don't matter. They don't mean anything to me. For designers, we don't really care about the rems. The pixels is really what we design in. We don't really bother about all of the rem stuff. That's more like code stuff. And every design software understands pixels. You don't need to worry about the conversions. But again, if you like to learn it, you can do extra, find a converter to add 30 pixels into rems or 20 pixels into rems, and then you can put it in yourself. But Figma doesn't want rems. Now we have 30, which is this one. We need to go higher. I'll probably say I want to go up to a 36. From here, I'll go up to a 42. And I'm just going at random numbers. It doesn't really matter to me at this point because I already have very good skills down here. I'm just going up. Now, at this point, but at least I'm not doing odd number. I'm only doing even number. It doesn't matter. I can do between this 36 and 42. I can do 38, 40. I can do them as well if I wanted to. This is just me creating a quick scale for you guys. Now, we have 42. Then I'll probably say about a 48. Then maybe I'll say I want to make a 54 again. Then maybe from the 54s, I want to do a 60 or maybe a 62. I can skip whatever I want to do. As long as I'm not odd numbers, it's all good. Then this 62, from 62, I'm just going to say a number like, let me say I want to do a 70. Let's just copy right there for now. Now, after I've done this, remember, I've not changed the font style. It doesn't make sense for me to even just assume I'm done. First thing, this one like this now, I'll first come here, I'll change it to 70 to reflect that number. It's very important for it to reflect. Let me just select everything here, enter. Give me a second. I want things to not wrap. I just want everything to be straight. All right. 70. The second one is 62. I'll just enter 62 there. And for this is 54. For this is 48. I know some people might be getting a little bit overwhelmed right now. You don't have to worry yourself about this. This is something you for, I think, more like to get your mind ready for. For the first 2-3 years of my career, I didn't know how to do shit like this. I just give numbers random. But for you guys, I feel it might be better for you guys to know these things faster, that you might start using them faster, and then you can get better jobs for them. Yeah. 42 is the number here. And the last one here is just 36. Now I have created that skill. I don't need anything else. Everything I need is already here. All I'll just have to just do is, and then I'll just start mapping them. Okay, which one is now the hero header? Let us now check and test it out. I'll now bring it in. This is enough, right? To be like the hero header. This is a very good size for that hero one. All I'll just say is to add this to that local style that we have here, I'll just select the font. Here, I'll click those 4 dots, and then I'll click plus. And then I'll name it Euro 1. You understand? And then I'll just create the style. And that's the end. It's already saved as Euro 1. Now we have Euro 1 and base font. To do the second one, select it. Select those 4 dots again beside typography. Plus. What do I want to call the second one? I want to call it header 1, Abi. Oh yeah. Header 1. And now header 1 is also here. Basically, you just do that until you have everything you need. Everything all saved here. And that's pretty much how you create your, should I say, font system that you want to use in your design, right? Now, if I come into this design now, sorry, yeah, let me hide the grid, right? Now, if I come here and I select this guy, if I go into this 4 dots, I want to add, I just want to make one of them. If I click on Euro 1, see, it's very big. It's not the right, it has attached, I've created styles. I'm not guessing what font size to use for anything. If everything, all of those things that we represented there, all of them are created already. It's just a matter of choosing the right font size for it. Oh, is it base font? Put it as base font. See, base font is too small. It was not the right one. You understand? That is the point of why we do that stuff. We first do all the creation of this. Now, for most of you guys, when you guys join companies, they will have system that you use already. But if you're working freelancing, I would advise you work with this scale. And let me just give you the scale. This is just the scale that I want you guys to work with. Work with font sizes that go from 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Then we now start skipping 24, 28, then 32. Then here now, I'm going to go a little bit more. Now I say 40. I can do 44 again. I can do 48. They can say 56. They can say about maybe 60, maybe 62. You understand? And then maybe 70. Then so you can just keep going as long as you are using even numbers and not odd numbers. You are good to go. You are good to go. And all you just have to do is just each one of them, make sure you have a font that represents that number. Select it and just adjust it, add it here. If I come here now, I'll just call it captions. Small. That's all I'll call it. I'll press enter. It has saved it as caption small now. If I select another one again, I'll just be adding them one by one by one. I wish there was a way to add everything once. You understand? But let me see. Let me try something here. Nah, there's no way to add it. There's no way. You have to do it one at a time. But there's a second plugin I discovered recently. And let us try it out now. I've not really used it, but let's try it. Let's go here and let's go here again. And this time we'll just say type edit, type styles. Type style will always tell you to select font, this thing. I'll select this and I'll press enter. Then I'll go back to plugins to then load type styles. Let's run type styles. Let's see what happens. Nice. Type style will allow us to name everything. Now, this is a very useful one. Everything is here now. It's just tell us make type styles, or can I rename the layers? I can rename the layers properly. You understand? But let's go back to type styles. I don't know why it scattered everything again like that. The plugin is not that great yet, but I think it's good. Let's go in. Let's try it again. Type styles. Let's load it up. And then this time, we want to make type styles. Let's say make type styles. Oh, yeah, make it. It has created 14 text styles. If I come here, everything is saved. The only problem is he named them auto 12, auto 12, auto 12. Why? Why did he do that? That's that. He just created, it did not really do anything that makes sense. We would have to name it ourselves and then properly give it the right number. It's not the best. It's still a crappy software. But for now, that's pretty much typography. It's very easy to use typography for almost anything. You understand the types and that you need to set up systems. And my idea on how to set up systems, you don't have to set up systems yet, but it's good to start learning towards setting up your own font systems. If you follow exactly what I did today, you follow exactly this scale I have here. Let me just do Ctrl Shift C. Shift C will allow you to copy anything as an image. You understand? Then I can come into the WhatsApp and I'll just paste it in. That same type scale I just copied. For some reason, it's black. That's weird. But let me add a background to it and then take it away from that. Let me just Ctrl Shift again. Because I think it copied it as a PNG. This time I'll just paste it as the white background made it better. I think that's why, yeah. All right. Pretty much, if you follow exactly this, it doesn't matter what font it is, whatever it is, as long as you take your time to set up the systems, right, you'll be able to do them. And again, in the next class tomorrow, I'll touch on this a tiny bit. But colors is not as stressful as type. Typography is the most stressful part. But once you get it right, you can work seamlessly across any platforms, web, mobile, for that same project, anytime, anywhere. That's why it's a little bit tricky. But colors is the easiest. And tomorrow we are going to be talking about colors. But to show you an example of a type scale setup, let me go into this. To show you what it should look like after you've set it up. You can even set up subfolders to say, oh, primary fonts. Oh, you can set things up in that particular way. It's just a way of you just structuring and labeling that this is the fonts that we use for headers. We are not really guessing the number. You are just picking from all the styles that you have created already. That's pretty much all this area that we'll be talking about this morning. That's all it is about. You understand? Setting up systems that are just applying it. You're not guessing what the number should be. This one is taking forever to load. Just the last thing. We call it a day for now. Tomorrow, colors is the easiest. You guys will love colors. But type is as boring as it gets. All right. Let me show you from my local styles here. See, I did folders for everything. I have folders for my captions. I have folders inside that type listing for my headers. See them. See all the different H1s I have. The H1 that has my secondary font and the H1 that has my primary font, all of them, they are here. I also have subtitles created. I only need 2 because you are mostly mobile. Body text, I only need 2. Button text, 3, you understand? But mainly, we only use 1. They will use these other ones, you understand? But again, in web, we use this 18 That's why we have those options, you understand? That is all the scenario has been about since morning. But trying to explain it to you guys, it might have confused some people a little bit more. But the thing here is colors. This is the easiest. There are plugins for colors. Like you guys, in just one fell swoop, you can create all of these things with a plugin. Very, very easy. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But for now, just understand that every type, right? Every font size you are using, there should be a correspondence between all of these guys from page to page. Why is it this size? Why is this size? Understand? All of these things matter. In this chip, why do we have this size be the same size as here, be the same size as here? Consistency is key when you are designing. All of those things matter. You understand? That is why we do those things. And why is it that this button has a particular size, but other buttons, their size are not as thick as that one? You understand? It's because we have set it here that we have options we can use. As long as we use those options, we are fine. We have set rules in place. Your design needs rules in order to stay at least consistent and structured. And that's just the entire scenario that we spoke about today. Just setting up these things for understanding that to even choose a font for any project is very important. How many options can you, like how flexible is that font that you want to use? And do you want to decide to have a primary and a secondary? Why do you need a secondary? It's very important for those reasons. And then just make your decision based on all of those things. Anyway, this particular scale is fine. You guys will be fine. If you use this scale, you are going to be fine. I'll probably show you some other ways to make your decision easier. You understand? I've already shown you one already by saying start from 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. When you get to 20, start skipping 4s. From 20, you start going 24. You go maybe 26, maybe you go 32. You understand? When you get 32, start skipping by 8. And you understand? Very simple structure. It doesn't matter, but it's your choice. That's just the point of it. It's your choice. But you still have to set it up so that we can apply those standards. We'll talk a little bit more about colors. How do you pick colors? How do you auto-generate colors? You see that that one is the easiest. It's not as hard as typography. Even designers who have been doing type for over 10 years still don't fully understand typography. So I don't expect you guys to understand everything in one day. It's just step by step. But for some of you guys who are already in the industry, you guys already understand what I'm saying. But you can see some of those things that you have to create your own systems. Just do that when you get to work, and it's fine. Hey guys, I've been talking for the last how many hours? I want to go and rest now.